folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you for stopping by to watch. A little late getting my video out this morning, I know. But it's that day after our monthly meeting. And physically, I am exhausted. But mentally, man, just fired up with so much new ideas from talking to everyone yesterday, and just like really invigorating. Being around a bunch of people that are like mine and that we're all working together for a common goal. So I slept in a little bit, and that's why I'm a little slow moving this morning. But I'm telling you, it was an exciting day, and I've got some things to talk about with that. Today is just kind of a mixed bag of tricks, I guess, for a video. It's cold, okay? But it's going to get a lot colder. In fact, I'm wearing my nice custom handmade hat that a young lady in our community, our group, made. And just because I wanted to, mention that, hey, this is the kind of stuff that as small groups we do to kind of help each other and barter and trade, which is how I got this. But the weather, speaking of the weather, something I just wanted to bring up. It's going to get cold this week. I want to show you some temperatures here. This is from the local weather app here in our area. So we're looking at single negative digit negatives. Yep. And this is in December. Even around here, getting this cold in December is kind of unusual. We don't usually get that cold until maybe January, middle to the end of January. Sometimes we start hitting those temperatures. So we're going to be seeing some pretty cold temperatures. And in fact, it's that way a lot of places. I was looking even down in like South Texas. You guys are going to be seeing some like 15-degree temperatures, in that neighborhood this week. So I want to recommend and remind everyone to make sure you're ready for that. If you need some fuel for a backup stove, maybe you have a kerosene or a propane heater, maybe you heat with wood, make sure you've got enough ready. Make sure, I recommend, especially with like wood heat, as it's starting to get cold, you don't want to be going in and out that much, bringing in wood to heat. If you can have a little spot just temporarily in your home to stack a little bit of wood, that way it keeps you from going outside when it's this cold, or what it's going to be. Opening that door even just a few minutes really brings the temperature down, and you don't want to be going out in negative temperatures anyways to grab a load of wood. But make sure you're prepared. I would recommend, especially many of you, to kind of close off certain parts of the house. If you're using a space heater and you're trying to heat the whole house, it's not going to work that well. So, put blankets up in hallways, things like that. Make sure your water pipes are as good as you can make them, and I would leave them dripping so that you don't freeze. It's just gonna make for a mess if your pipes freeze and burst, but this is some pretty frigid cold temperatures. So get ready for that. Another thing I just wanted to mention, and I'll probably talk about this more later on, either today or tomorrow or something, is the Title 42, which was put into place to try to prevent some of the border crossing people that are coming across the border. It was put into place, many of you know, because of the pandemic. That ends Wednesday. So all this we've been talking about of this increase is going to get worse. In fact, Homeland Security was estimating that at least 15,000 people a day could be crossing the southern border. And if you do the math on that, 15,000 a day, that's about 5.5 million a year we could see coming across the border. That's a lot, folks. And we're already seeing places like El Paso, Texas, which I've talked about recently. They've declared a state of emergency because they're getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,500 to 5,000 a day already crossing into that one town. I just can't even imagine what it's like having that many people. Even if, let's just say every one of them were here to only be good and do good, that alone is still insane. And we know that some of this has got to be criminal elements. And so it's got to be a nightmare down there for people. Moving on to hopefully some more positive things. Yes, we had our big monthly meeting yesterday, and I don't even know how to put it into words anymore. You have to come and be part of it to really understand the scope of it. You know, we started off as just a monthly meeting. You know, we just come there and talk about preparedness and homesteading things. You know, we have every month usually at least a couple of people that talk about various things, whether it's canning or, you know, herbalism or emergency dentistry, or, you know, bug out bags, or, you know, all kinds of first aid kits. There's all kinds of different subjects that we cover at the meetings. But it's definitely grown into something more, and to the point now it's being developed into an actual community, which is something we've been working on. But I think this year is really our year to turn just a monthly meeting into a big, you know, type of community where we're really working together. We help each other as much as possible throughout the month, going to each other's houses at times, you know, doing work parties and stuff. And the facility that we're using, it's amazing. Most of you that don't live out like this may not get it, but, you know, we're out in a very rural part of the country. And there just happens to be, kind of in the middle of nowhere, this big community building. And it's not, there's no town, there's like a little gas station down the road from it. There's nothing there. And it's run by a local nonprofit. And so that's the building that we use. And they're starting to see what we're doing, and they really like it. And so we have been using it one day a month for our meetings. It's not our building, but they let us use it. We pay, you know, a small fee. And so they've approached us of using it more often for an even smaller amount of money. And so we are going to, aside from our normal monthly meeting, we will be using this building once a week. We will have access to it. We now have our own keys. They think that what we're doing is amazing, and it's starting to kind of catch on around here. You know, a lot of people think, well, you're just having these meetings and people are just coming because you have a YouTube channel. Well, there's a good percentage of them that's the case. They've heard about this through this channel. But every meeting now, we have people that show up that have no clue that I have a YouTube channel. They didn't even know about it. In fact, we hardly ever talk about that. It's not a subject that's even really brought up at the meeting, because the meeting itself is not about this channel or myself or anything. It's about the community that we're building. And so the local people around here, they come a lot of times, and they're starting to catch on and think it's great. So throughout the month, we're going to be having different types of training events. We'll be having just various community days. We're even talking with people about doing like little health clinics, homeschool groups, meetings in the building. There's all kinds of stuff, and it's a big, nice building. So it's exciting to see that kind of stuff happen. And I know that many of you say, well, that's great for you, but what about me? It is possible to be held other places. There's many of you could do this also. It takes work, and there are many of you that are hosting meetings other places, and they're growing. And, you know, I've said before, if you would like for me to announce it on the channel, I will certainly do so. One of the things that we're doing is a community newspaper. Now, I've been putting out a newsletter for a while, and my newsletter is not promoting this channel. I don't sell you anything. I don't even, it's free. I really don't even mention anything about a YouTube channel in the newsletter. But we're turning that newsletter into kind of a community newspaper. This is one I just printed off. It's actually 8 pages. And it has articles in it that are written by people here in our local group. Little tips and tricks. This one here has an article on homeschooling, has some information on ham radio, has a devotional from a local pastor, prayer request list for our local area. This is kind of a classified ads area, people that selling things and businesses, you know, that they want to promote. This is a list of prepping and homesteading events here in the Ozarks, not related to this channel or our group. So other things that are happening. Here's an article about, you know, using what types of oils and stuff to use on your firearms. So there's just a lot of stuff going on, and it's great to see that happening. I want to tell just a little story of one that I found out yesterday to kind of give you an idea of how this is kind of all coming together. a gentleman and his wife showed up yesterday at the meeting, and one of the other guys that's a regular, is a good friend of mine, he wanted to introduce him to me. And so he's one of the ones that had no clue I had a YouTube channel, didn't know anything about it. And the last couple of years, they've been aware of all the stuff that's going on in the world, things that are changing. And he said that he and his wife, they decided that they were not living in an area that was good to live in with all this collapse going on. And basically they sold out of their business and everything. And they found a piece of property, a farm here locally, and they moved to it. And he said, we had no friends, no family, no connections here, but we just felt, the Father, was just moving us here, that there was just a reason that we should move here. And so this friend of mine met this couple at a local store here last week. They just happened to run into each other, and how it is, two strangers in a store, and they just start talking. And so this guy's talking to him about, them moving here and all this kind of stuff. And my friend, part of our group, said, you know what, you need to come to our meeting. And so he came and he told me, he said, this was amazing for us. He said, because here we moved here, we found they actually bought an Amish farm, an off-grid Amish farm. And, it's set up, they're doing pretty good in a very quick amount of time to set them up to be pretty self-sufficient and prepared. But like he said, we had no one here. He said, and there was part of us that was a little sad that we had no connection, we had no friends, and we were wondering if this was the right decision for us. He said, and then we found out about this meeting. He said, and it feels like all of our prayers have been answered. That we heard right from Father, that God moved us to the right place, because here we are, we have this like built-in community already. And so they were new people. Their home is actually just a few miles from us, not too far. And it worked out great. That's the kind of stuff that's happening. There's another family, they're now regulars, very similar kind of a scenario, that they had moved here and because they felt God just drawing them to this area because they needed to live in a place that they could ride out the apocalypse, so to speak. But they had no connection here, no family or anything. And they had purchased a load of firewood from a guy on Facebook. And this guy was talking to him as he was unloading his wood and everything that they purchased. And they said, yeah, we'd love to find more people like us. And he's like, well, I hear there's some meeting going on up here, up the road. He said, you should check that out. He said, I think it's a bunch of people like yourself. Well, they showed up, and sure enough, now they're just part of our community and have become actually very good friends with them. This is the kind of work that's happening, and it's necessary because the world is rapidly changing. And it's just an invigorating experience to be around people of like mind. There was another family, another story. I know, it's story time with Travis. That yesterday was their first time at the meeting. I'd been communicating with them, and they had moved here, kind of the similar reasons. They said that they lived up north near some big cities, and they said it was awful. They just knew they had to get out. They couldn't survive there. And they wanted to move here, and they did. And yesterday they said, it's like a whole different world here. She said that the fact that there's like-minded people that live a similar way, that believe a similar way. She said it's just so different than what we were used to, and they're loving it. It doesn't mean that this life is easy, and it doesn't mean that everything is just perfect in this wonderful utopia. That's not it at all. But we know that with the numbers that we have and the people, the closeness that we're building, the relationships that are being developed, that we have a much better chance of surviving and making it through troubled times. And that's what we're doing. Yesterday we talked in great length at the meeting about what we can do as a small community to combat this digital, wave of money and everything else that's happening. Bartering, trading. There was my wife and I, we have our soap, homemade soap for pretty much the next year. There was a couple there that they have a little soap business in the community. And we did some bartering and trading with them, and basically we have enough soap now for probably at least the next 6 months, maybe a year. Homemade soap. That's part of what we're doing. We're also working on bigger things that could help us combat dealing with this digital stuff that's happening. So there is a big advantage. You know, it's not some utopian communist commune or anything like that. It's just an area of people that are working together, and we're starting to see more and more of this pop up around the country. And I hope that more of it does. Again, it's not perfect. You know, it's not 100%. You know, foolproof idea, and that it's you know, absolutely going to work and protect you against all things, but it just makes it a better world. And as when we have the strength and numbers, we're able to do things that, you know, you can't do on your own. You know, one guy, he may have a sawmill, and another guy you know, has a particular piece of equipment that not everyone now has to own, because this guy has it, and now we can all go to him. This is a way that can make it a lot better for a lot of people. And I would encourage you to find something like that, and if it doesn't exist in your area, to start it. And if you need help, you know, promoting it or something like that, certainly shoot me an email and I'll do everything I can. But it's a lot of work to be done. I mean, we've got a lot of work ahead of us, not just here in this community, but all of us, because things are happening at a pretty rapid pace. And between the economical stuff, the war front between Russia, China, and all this other stuff, and then really the bigger picture, which is this Agenda 2030 New World Order stuff. We've got a lot of stuff ahead of us, folks, and it's time to get ourselves prepared, to get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.